Okay, let's dive right into a really critical tax update for all you military homeowners. For the 2025 tax year, there is a very unique and, frankly, a potentially very costly situation involving the VA funding fee. We're going to break down exactly how this happened and what you need to know. So, what's with this number, $16,500? This is the kind of money we're talking about, a potential non-deductible cost a veteran could be looking at for a VA loan in 2025. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly why this specific year is such a big deal. Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, what exactly is this fee? Then, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of why the IRS says it's not interest or points. After that, we'll uncover the legislative gap that's causing all this trouble for 2025, cover the one major exception to the rule, and then wrap it all up with some real strategies you can think about. All right, first things first, we have to establish exactly what this fee is, because its legal definition, straight from the U.S. Code, is literally the key to understanding its entire tax treatment. It all starts here. So here it is, the crucial piece of the puzzle, right from Title 38 of the U.S. Code, Section 3729. The law defines this as a user fee for a government service, that loan guarantee program. It is explicitly not a payment for the use of money. And that one single distinction is the legal bedrock for everything else we're about to talk about. And here's where you can see what that means in actual dollars and cents. Just look at the jump for a subsequent use loan with less than 5% down. It hits 3.30%. You do the math on a $500,000 loan and boom, there's the $16,500 fee we started with. We are not talking about pocket change here. Of course, before we even start talking about deductions, we have to ask, do you even have to pay the fee? It's so important to know if you can avoid it entirely. These specific groups are exempt by law. And let's be clear, a full waiver is always a better deal than any tax deduction. Okay, now let's wade into the deep end. This is where a lot of the tax confusion comes from. And we're going to see exactly how the IRS legally separates this fee from other costs that, sound pretty similar, but are treated totally differently. The IRS is crystal clear on this. Interest is what you pay for using money, period. But since the funding fee is a payment for a government service, that risk mitigation guarantee, it just fails the most basic test to be called mortgage interest under IRC Section 163. It's a service fee, not a loan fee. So you might be thinking, okay, fine, can I just call it points? And the answer from the IRS is a hard no. Under Internal Revenue Code Section 461G2, points are legally defined as prepaid interest. If you look at IRS Publication 936, it's spelled out. The VA funding fee is listed right there with other non-deductible service charges like appraisal and notary fees. So if it's not interest and it's not points, how is this thing ever deductible in the first place? Well, here is the one, and I mean the only, legal backdoor, IRC Section 163H3E. This is the part of the tax code that says the funding fee can be treated as if it were qualified mortgage insurance. This is why when it is deductible, your lender reports it to you in Box 5 of your Form 1098. The fee's entire tax fate is tied to that little box. And this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? It's a fantastic side-by-side. Discount points have a direct path to being deductible as interest under the main rules of IRC Section 163. But the VA funding fee, its only hope is when that special insurance path through Section 163H3E is open for business. Now, we get to the heart of the problem for the 2025 tax year. That one and only insurance path, well, it's been closed. And that closure has created a very specific and very frustrating legislative gap. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This is a direct quote from the IRS's own guide for 2025, Publication 936. You can't get any clearer than that. So what this means is, for 2025, even if your lender puts a number in Box 5 on your Form 1098, that number is not deductible on your Schedule A. Now, you might have heard that Congress passed a law to fix this permanently. And you'd be right. They did. It's called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. But, and this is the multi-thousand-dollar catch, they wrote the law so that it only takes effect for tax years beginning after December 31st, 2025. That means the fix doesn't help until the 2026 tax year. This timeline just paints the picture perfectly. You can see it clear as day. We had years where it was deductible, then a few years where the law had technically expired, and then there's 2025. This official gap year just sitting in a weird valley between the old expired rules and the new permanent fix that kicks in for 2026. But wait, there's more. To make this situation even more impactful, that same One Big Beautiful Bill Act did something else that's huge for 2025. It jacked up the state and local tax, or SALT, deduction cap all the way to $40,000. So why does that matter? Well, for years, that low $10,000 SALT cap meant a time of homeowners just took the standard deduction because it was better. But with a new $40,000 cap, suddenly, way more military families are going to find it makes sense to itemize their deductions in 2025, only to find out that this other huge deduction, the funding fee, is uniquely off limits for that 1 year. Okay, but what if the property isn't your primary home? Let's switch gears and talk about the big exception where these frustrating 2025 gap year rules just don't apply. If you've got a rental property, you're playing by a completely different set of rules. Here, the funding fee is considered a cost of getting a business asset, the loan itself. That means you have to capitalize it and then amortize it. Basically, you get to deduct a little piece of the total cost, usually over 360 months, on your Schedule E every single year. And here's a really powerful strategy tucked away in that exception. If you ever refinance that rental property, the IRS lets you deduct the entire remaining balance of that original funding fee all at once. Why? Because the original loan, the asset, is gone. So you get to accelerate the rest of the deduction in the year you refi. So let's pull all these technical details together. What are the key strategies you need to be thinking about to navigate this very unique 2025 tax year? This chart really drives the point home. That much higher SALT cap in 2025 is a huge incentive to itemize. And that's exactly what makes the loss of the funding fee deduction so much more painful, because more people will be looking for it and won't be able to take it. All right, here are your key takeaways. Number 1, timing is everything. Simply pushing a closing from late December 2025 into early January 2026 could literally be the difference between a deductible fee and a non-deductible one. Number 2, verify your exemptions. Always double-check your disability status for that full fee waiver. And 3, if you have a rental, make sure you're playing by the rental rules. And that leaves us with this final thought. When you look at how much this fee can cost, and you see this specific legislative gap in 2025, it makes you realize that a simple decision about your closing date, literally the turn of a calendar page, could become a 5-figure tax decision.